Hello and good day, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is the Captain speaking, and welcome to We Educate Racing. In this video, we're going to go over how to tune for camber in Gran Turismo 7. But before I do, I just want to make sure you guys have seen the previous tuning videos. I'll have them linked in the description below. It's just so that you guys would be caught up to how we got these values here, and so that everything I mentioned in this video would make sense. Alright? With that being said, it's lights out and away we go. Camber, everybody knows, is basically how the wheel leans towards the middle of the car. Now you can go ahead and read this, but the only thing you need to take out of it is more grip while cornering. It does this by using the contact patch of the tire. Contact patch is the part of the tire that touches the ground. Okay, there are three parts to this: the inside, the middle, and the out. IMO. Let's say, for instance, that your car rolls 2 degrees when you're cornering at apex. Okay. If your camber is set to 2 degrees as well, that means at the apex, your car or the tire is standing perpendicular to the ground, which is good because you're using 100% of your contact patch. Right? However, there is a thing called Newton's law of inertia. And going back to Bathurst turn 1, when we turn left, Newton's law of inertia gives us a force that feels like it's pushing us in the opposite direction. Now, I'm not going to get too into Newton's law or whatever, but just know that it's there and that it's acting on the wheel. When I say wheel, I'm only referring to the rim, not the rubber. The rubber is already gripped to the ground, fine. But because of Newton's law, it actually wants to pull the wheel out of the rubber. And I've actually seen that before, where the wheel pops out of the rubber. It's funny. Anyway, yeah, so I doubt it'll happen here. But if you're cornering and your car is still understeering, even though you're using 100% of your contact patch, it's because of Newton's law. That excess understeer is coming from Newton's law. So adding just a little bit will compensate for that. Now obviously you might need more or less, but it's up to you. You'll feel it when you're driving. Okay. The window that I use when tuning is between 1.2 and 2.2. Okay. The Newton's law is already considered for this. So I start at 1.2, and then when I turn and I need more bite, then I just increase this from here. But 1.2 is where we're going to start. Okay. Now, as mentioned before, whatever the front is doing, the rear is doing something else. So you cannot tune these two together and expect the same results. Might as well make that like a tune. Gotta keep saying it. But therefore, our rear camber will be set up in the middle between 1.2 and 2.2. The reason why is because our oversteer is going to be generated by the ride height. When we increase this, we're increasing the inertia that is generated when we corner. Therefore, we're going to need the grip to catch it. Okay? In some cases, you will see cars that have more aggressive camber in the front than the rear. This is because they're generating oversteer with anti-roll bars. Okay, say for example, if our setup was like this, and we realize that the front wheel is degrading faster than the rear, then we need to generate a kind of oversteer that would burn the tires faster compared to the front without adjusting the ride height. Okay, this setup makes the rear slide laterally, left and right, while maintaining the inertia low, keeping the inertia low. All right, so the slide is controllable. If you have it set with a rake, yet minimum grip in the rear, with aggressive oversteer, then yeah, you're gonna get nothing but severe oversteer with this setup. Not good. If you're going to have a high inertia in the rear, then you need to have more grip to compensate for that. Okay, so yeah, that's why our camber will be set up like this, because we intend to generate oversteer with the rear ride height. When we take this out on track, this is most likely going to go up. Maybe 107, 108, maybe. Okay, but we'll get to that once we get there. So yeah, that's pretty much it with cambers for now. We'll talk more in detail once we take it out on track, because everything else comes down to feel, right? I could explain it, but it's better that you witness it yourself as I explain it. Okay. Also, I want you guys to understand these values are not definite. I am setting these up on purpose because it's technically tuned wrong. When we take it out on track, the car is not going to behave accordingly. I'm doing that on purpose so that when we adjust it, you guys will feel the difference. I don't want it to set this up so that it's perfect, and then when you take it out on track, you can't compare it to anything. Okay, and I really need you guys to understand this, which is why I'm tuning it this way. All right. In the next video, we're going to talk about toe angles. And there's not a lot to talk about that, so it's going to be a quick one. And then after that, we're going to talk about downforce. And this is part 3 of the 3 constants that I was mentioning in the natural frequency video. The first constant is your weight balance, weight ratio. You cannot change this, so that's why it's one of the constants, right? The second constant is the front ride height. Even though this fluctuates up and down, the car always reverts to this. Okay, that's number 2. And number 3 is your downforce. As you go through speeds, the weight shifts. It changes all of this, which is why we need to set this up a certain way to keep all of this together, to maintain consistency regardless how fast or slow we're going. Okay, so yeah, we're going to talk about all of that in future videos. So if you have not subscribed, make sure you do so that you don't miss out when those videos come out. And then if you learned anything or just like tuning in general, go ahead and like this video. I sincerely appreciate it. It helps us out. You know how it goes. All right, y'all. Until the next one. Cheers. Bye-bye.